I'm here at Fairlands Valley Fishery, just going to do sort of 24 hours, maybe even 12 hours, depends on how it's going. Come down here quite light. I've only got my 2-pound test curve rods, my little bait runners, 12-pound line. I'm going to give the method feeder a go. Now that's not my normal approach. Normally I come down in normal carp style, 12-foot 3-pound test curve rods, bit of sort of bullyish tactics really, but you know, the average weight in here is increasing, but at the moment it's sort of sitting around sort of double figure mark. So there are some backup fish in here, a few 20-pounders, but you've really got to wade through. Now, method, probably not the best approach in here. There are a lot of silverfish in here, but I'm going for sort of a lot of flavour in the water, high intensity smells, getting a lot of food signals going on, but not producing a lot of food, hopefully to try and achieve a sort of a feeding frenzy. Whether or not that will work, the hook baits I'm using are quite small, sort of very small little nuggets, again very oily from DNA baits. They're the crayfish hookers, so I mean there is a small chance that, you know, I could get pestered, but I do have some backup tactics. I do have lead core with me, and some heavier leads, and some boilers as well, so if I do start getting pestered by smaller fish and nuisance silverfish, then you know I can change my approach at a moment's notice. So fingers crossed, we should see what the results are in the near future. So this is what I'm using, nice and simple. So I'm going to use a method feeder, nice and light, with a bit of armour braid core, and then size 8 super strong hook with a little bit of shrink tubing on the hook there, just to give it a kickback. And there's these little nuggets there, tiny little nuggets. Alright, and on there I favour a knot halfway down the shank, but a lot of people tend to use a bit of silicone tubing, and that can slide up and down as you see. And then obviously just a bit of not shrink tubing, bit of anti-tangle sleeve in there, nice and heavy, so it pins it all down to the deck. Now bait wise, these are the hookers I'm using, DNA Baits mini crayfish hookers, proper little oily fellas, as you can see there, proper oily, and they really do smell quite strong. So what we're after then, you know, is a lot of flavour in the water. Then we've got the little mini crayfish pellet, proper tiny micro pellet, really tiny, 2 types of micro pellet there. Alright, and then we stick all that together in another bucket, which is this finished product here, with some Vitamin. You just get that out of your local pet shop. Alright, and probably more pellet than Vitamin. The Vitamin there is only really to sort of soak up the flavour just as much as the pellet is, and then give it a good sort of binding agent so it sticks on, but not too hard so it sort of breaks down and sort of flakes away. But once we've mixed all that up dry, I'm putting in quite a lot of flavour. This is the liquid yeast extract. Smells very much like Marmite, very thick indeed. So yeah, this is raw ingredients, so you know there's no minimum inclusion rate, so you can stick pretty much as much as you like in there, or as little as you like, depends on what you're trying to achieve, your wallet, and you know all that kind of stuff. And then we leave that stand for a good few hours just to soak in, but it's not quite enough to bind it, to give it a good consistency in the cast. So what we do is we boil up a little kettle of water, don't need the extra hairs in there, and then put a little bit of water in there, and that allows it to soak into the pellet. Cold water doesn't seem to do the trick as well, so just a quick boil of hot water, and then just little and often put it in, shake it up, let it stand, give it a check, and then just keep adding little and often. I went a bit too overboard first off round. I was trying to get my rods out in a bit of a rush, and so subsequently my rod was out there about an hour, and when I reeled that fish in after quite a hefty fight, I still had half the feeder still full of bait. But there we go, that's pretty much what I'm using, nice and simple. Now as far as putting the bait on the feeder, I mean teaching most of you guys how to suck eggs, which is probably not what I'm after, but what I'm doing, because this is quite a stiff mix, is I'm just putting bait on, whoops, and then compressing it on quite tight. Don't want it to break down instantly, and when I'm flinging it fair away, I don't want it to hit the deck, hit the water and then break up instantly. I really want it to hit the bottom of the lake and start breaking down, or breaking down by fish. So I still want to give it a fair old squeeze, but what I'm not doing is putting the hook bait inside, which is what I would normally do. Because it is quite a stiff mix, you find that the fish really have got to attack it, and you don't tend to get the breakdown you're after. So what I'm doing is using a PVA foam nugget.
Just catch one.
Huh? This is Gavin just turned up. Give it a quick lick. Put the hook in the side of the foam and then fold it over. And that moisture there just sticks it together. And what that does then, that stops the hair from wrapping around the hook and then just gives it a good presentation. So there, if you do get caught up in a bit of chod there, it just protects it as well. And then with that being braid, it's nice and loose and doesn't ping too far away from the actual method ball itself. And that's it, nice and simple. So after last night, I was half expecting to be sat here spouting some spiel about perseverance, or I don't know, I'm not quite sure, but I managed 2 last night, that little common that I told you about, and another little mirror shortly after. But then afterwards I lost 8 fish back to back, changed pretty much everything to try and see what the deal was as opposed to why I was losing fish. Changed hook size, changed hook pattern, changed the length of the hair. About the only thing that I hadn't changed was the actual weight. Now the method feeders that I were using were really quite light, and I was fishing for that feeder, at least anyway, sort of a fair old distance, and I just don't know if it was not hooking them right, I don't know, so I increased my strike. You know, I tightened my bait runner just to sort of try and help hooking that fish before I got to my rod, maybe, I don't know what I was trying. So I cut that off and put a conventional lead and silk ray set up on the hit and run system, and then tying quite large PVA bags. So, oh, the liners have started again this morning. I've had a couple of bream this morning already, so I know my hooks are sharp at least anyway, but you know, no carp this morning, and it all went quiet after I changed to my lead setup and PVA bag. I don't know, about 3 o'clock I suppose. Never had a sniff, and then recast this morning and then had them 2 bream, but don't know what's going on, don't know what I can do. You know, my rigs are good, been using them for years, never had a problem. The hooks I've got on, I've never lost a fish on them yet, up to the point of last night, and then to lose, I think I lost 5 or 6 on that particular hook last night. The old jungle hooks, incredible, never know nothing like it. So, well, let's hope I can actually snare another carp before it's time to go home.